What's up, guys? It's Mandi,
It's Wanda,
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
and this is the Two Girls, One Bar podcast.
your strength sport podcast for the girls.
Kind of down coffee, and I almost just choked myself out here. Welcome back to the podcast, you guys. We're super excited to have Stephanie here with us. Steph, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, ladies. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh my gosh, we're super excited to have you. Do you want to give just like a super brief intro for anyone who might not know who you are at all?
Yeah, of course. My name is Stefani Warnick. I am an Olympic weightlifter and an Olympic weightlifting coach and the owner of the Olympic weightlifting club, The Strength Tank, co-owner. Ryan would murder me if I didn't say that. um, and I've been weightlifting for about 11 years now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's funny. I love women who own gyms and clubs, so I'm really excited to kind of dig into that. But we always love to ask like about sport background first. So
Of course.
I know that you played soccer in college,
Yep.
but did you play like a ton of sports as a kid? Was it soccer the whole way through, or what was it like growing up in sport?
It was soccer the whole way through, but I played, like, a million sports growing up. Another huge love of mine, which continues to be, was skiing and transitioned into snowboarding as I got a little bit older, but I started skiing pretty much the year I could walk. My parents had me on skis, and then around 9 or 10, I started snowboarding. So that's, like, a big thing for me. I've played hockey, lacrosse, track, basketball was a huge one for me. I tried everything at various points and continue to do so, if I'm being honest with you. Um, so my dad was an athlete, my mom was a little bit of an athlete and definitely got into some sports as she got older, and it just is kind of like the culture of our family. My sister is the same way.
Yeah. How did you find weightlifting? So how did that transition happen?
So, during college, so I played soccer through my sophomore year of college, um, and then, like, officially with the school, and then after that, I kinda just kept doing, like, club and, like, intramural sports, like, mostly intramural soccer, but I did some basketball and stuff like that, but while I was, sorry, this is my cat Leia, by the way, she's gonna pop in here and there. Um
We love it. We're fans.
While I was, on the school's team, they started they have, like, strength and conditioning and stuff, and they
Mhm.
started teaching us how to do, like, power cleans and stuff, and funnily enough, I hated lifting when I played soccer. I was like, "This is the worst part, like, why do I have to lift? I'm a soccer player, we should be running." You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, but after I left the team, I continued to lift even though I didn't like it, so I, like, had sort of I was a little drawn to it. So when I graduated college, I came out here to San Diego, and um, I like didn't I was kind of lost. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't realize how much I identified with being an athlete. So when I
Mhm.
didn't have like a sport to connect me to anything, like even just doing intramural sports was like driving me because it was like we had practice and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, I think when I got out here, I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. And one of my girlfriends who I lived with, Jen Bossy, asked me to go to a CrossFit class. And I was like, that seems insane. I really don't want to do that. So I ended up doing CrossFit for a few months, and the CrossFit gym that we were at had a weightlifting team and like a weightlifting club. Um, and one of the coaches was like, "Hey, so you'll probably never really be good at CrossFit, but you might be kind of good at weightlifting." And I was like, "Sign me up. I hate CrossFit."
Oh my gosh. I love
So
the
yeah.
blatant honesty. Like, you'll never really be great at that, but you should try this.
He definitely said it with a little more tact, I'm sure, but
That's
that's how
so
I
funny.
remember the conversation going.
Yeah. I feel like that's so common when people, especially people who are in collegiate sport, because, your schedule's so regulated, you're so used to practice, and sport kind of defines even how you live the rest of your life, right? So
Right.
leaving that is a strange feeling. And you didn't even just leave that. You then moved literally across the country.
Yeah, that was a crazy move. I think I knew that if I didn't do it then, I'd get into a rhythm where I was, and I was like, I have to move now. And I
Mhm.
think that made it easier to try new things because everything you're doing is for the first time.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
even though it was like intimidating to go into like this, you know, crazy gym that was low key a cult, I'm like, why not? I have no other friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, what other than like you just wanted to move to San Diego, did you move out there for a job? Like, did you have like a job lined up when you like moved out there, like after graduating, or?
No, I honestly was like going on a hope and a prayer. I had like very little money saved, which is insane now. I think about that now and I'm like, I could never do it this way. But I was, I was a kid and I always
Yeah.
just went with like it'll work out. And if it doesn't, I move home. Like whatever.
Yeah.
Does it matter? I actually like didn't tell my parents this at the time, or like I probably told my sister, but like 2 weeks prior to me moving out there, or maybe not even, it might have been a shorter period of time, the place I was supposed to live fell through. And I was like, I don't care, I'm going anyway. So my first like probably 3 weeks here, I was like basically couch surfing. I found this girl's couch to sleep on Craigslist for the first like couple nights. And I would like go out because I was like 22. So I'd like go out to the bar and I'd like meet some friends and I'd be like, hey, this is weird, but I'll pay you some money if you let me crash on your couch.
Oh my
Or
God.
I would like find somewhere on Craigslist again for like a couple nights. And so that happened for like 2.5 weeks till I found an apartment to move into.
Yeah.
It was crazy. I had
That's
no job. I
that's
moved out there with genuinely like 2 suitcases and that's all I had. And I was just like keeping it with me at strangers' houses, which is insane to think about. But
yeah.
that was also like almost 13 years ago. So I like to think I've learned a lot since then.
Yeah.
That's
Oh my God, that's so funny.
crazy. It's
I
crazy.
know.
We talked about how I moved out there as well. I also couch surfed and did not have a job when I moved out there. So maybe it's
Yeah.
a San Diego. You're like, fuck it, let's go.
Yeah, and I, like, knew,
That's
like, one
nuts.
person out here, which is ended up being the girl that got me into the CrossFit gym.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's cool. So what was it like starting weightlifting? Weightlifting obviously very different than soccer, even when it comes to just like training cadence. So what was that transition kind of like?
Um, you know, I think that, like, getting into, like, the CrossFit gym and weightlifting just, like, reminded me that I was an athlete. Like, I see the early videos, like, I kinda wanna send some to you guys so you can, like, overlay them with this podcast because it is hilarious. I see the early videos and I have this like super intense like face on and it's like I think even though it's a different sport, my brain just kind of triggered into like you're training now, you're at practice now. You know what I mean? So I just immediately took it really seriously, which is funny. I would like I was, I was like waiting tables and bartending full time at the time, so I'd have a lot of time during the day and it was really fun because like there's like a group of friends there that you're training with and um I met my now business partner, Ryan Espiritu, like immediately. Like we were in the same CrossFit classes and then made the transition from CrossFit to weightlifting together. So and I remember like I was again, I did CrossFit for like maybe 3 months. Maybe there was some overlap in between that, but like very short amount of time. And
Hmm.
or one of my early conversations, I said to Ryan, I'm going to go to the CrossFit Games. And he will still to this day say that he full heartedly believed me. And then a few months later, I'm like, actually, fuck that. Let's just go to weightlifting nationals. And he's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And we just like skipped and hopped over. So like immediately I like saw who was the best and wanted to do that. And I always was like that with soccer too. Like even though I like played for like a little D3 school in my head, I was like, I could go pro. So I think like I just like switched over and like made training serious because that's what I
Yeah,
was used to doing anyway, you know?
yeah. I love that. I'm a fan of intense and competitive. So I'm like, yes, let's go. Be the best. Um, how long was it from when you started weightlifting to where you did your first competition?
It was really fast because the coach that had said to me, you probably won't be that good at this. Like I was still mostly CrossFitting when I did that. And that's what kind of like made me realize I liked weightlifting more. Um, there was a competition at our gym. These are the videos I have to send you because it's so funny. Like I'll make the lift and then I'll just go, yes. And I'm like so skinny too. Like for context right now, I'm like probably 85, 84, 85 kilos and I'm an 86. Like I've been over 86. I was like 70 kilos weighing in for this competition. Like I was this big. So I'm like lifting this weight and I'm all wobbly at the top and then I like get it and I'm like, yes. And it's just like super cute. Flip my hair, super intense. So
Yeah.
that was like that was like a few months into CrossFit and weightlifting, and I think it was just like at my gym, so it made sense for me to do that because other people at my gym were doing it and my coaches were encouraging me to do it. So that's kind of like I did learn a lot from that moment. That's like a thing that we do at the Strength Tank is we encourage people to compete early and often.
Mhm.
Because that moment made me fall in love with weightlifting and that moment made me want to be better at weightlifting. Like I came in
Yeah.
last probably and I didn't even care. Like I don't care. I had a fun time and I felt
Yeah.
really confident walking away and that's the point. So we try to give people that early exposure to competition. They're like, "I'm not ready." And I'm like, "I'm a 10, 11 years into this and I'm almost never ready." So,
Yeah.
it's never going to change.
Mhm.
Yeah. I love that. I think too when people wait, early and often is my what I practice and preach as well too with coaching.
Mhm.
And I think when you wait too long, you have too many expectations, right? Like you start to get
Mhm.
these expectations for like numbers you should hit or the way a competition should go rather than just going and like just doing it and being in the community of weightlifting a
Yeah.
different way. Like meets are
Right.
so fun, so it's such
I
a
know.
different way to experience the sport.
Yeah, and you know what I say to people too, a lot of times I'm like, okay, like we have this one guy who has a lot of potential. If he stays with it, he could do a lot. But right now he's like not even snatching 100 kilos and he's like like gets super stressed about that piece of it and like what am I going to open at, and I'm like, hey, when you're snatching 130 you're not going to care about this moment whether or not you opened with 82 or 84. You're not going to care about that. What you will care about and what you will remember is if you bomb out. That will live with you forever. If you had a crappy session and you walk away from this with a chip on your shoulder that determines your training for the next 4 months, that you will remember. So pick the number that you're definitely going to hit because it's early and it doesn't matter. And like you're not winning this session anyway. You've established that. So just don't worry about 82 or 84. Worry about 6 for 6 or even, just as good 4 for 6. You're making lifts so that you feel confident, you learn something and you walk away with that piece of it. When you start worrying about about those bigger numbers, it should be for a qualifier, for a medal, for some sort of placement that you're looking for. And that's kind of how I like push people at the beginning when they're like trying to decide these minute things or deciding whether or not they're ready, you know?
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes complete sense. So you start lifting, you do your
Yep.
first meet. How long does it take you to go from that to, you had set your eyes, then you switched from CrossFit Games to nationals. So once, we did that little goal change, what was the path to nationals like?
It took like 7 years. It took a really long time. And I, sometimes I see these people like that come into it and they're good in like 2 years. And there was this piece of me previously that would get like a twinge of like a little bit bitter, a little bit jealous. And now as I've, matured a lot more, I'm just I'm just in awe of them. I'm like, wow, that's incredible because it took me so long to do that. And it still to this day isn't easy for me. I've never been the athlete that qualified for finals and nationals like without thinking. I've only actually qualified for nationals twice and um one of the times I couldn't go to due to injury. So
Yep.
I've only competed at nationals one time and it was like it is the most disappointing experience athletic experience of my life actually. So it took me 7 years. I think that was a really cool moment to do that, but I think the first time I qualified for AO finals was bigger to me. I think once I qualified for AO finals, I expected to qualify for nationals.
Yeah.
But before that, the big thing was like, I got to qualify for AO finals. This is really hard. And that took me probably like 5 years to do, 4 or 5 years to do. And I remember I had like a bet with my dad. And I don't know that I don't think he didn't think I could do it. I think he like understands who I am, that if I'm like, I'm gonna do this, then I'm really gonna do it. But he like bet against me basically. And he was like,
Yeah.
well, if you ever do that, then I'll fly wherever you are to go watch it. And so I like went to this meet and it was in California. My dad lives in Boston, so he didn't come. And I call him after, I FaceTimed him after, and I was like teary-eyed a little bit. And he was like, "Oh, honey, I'm sorry." And I was like, "See you in Milwaukee." Like I was like so pumped. And he was like, "What? No way, I can't believe it." Because it was kind of before everyone was filming, like recording the sessions too. Like the local
Yeah.
Yeah.
gyms weren't recording their meets yet, so he couldn't
Yeah.
watch it.
Yeah.
So it was cool to like get the jump on him. I knew he thought I was gonna call him and say I like missed it, and I made it. It was like a Hail Mary. I couldn't believe I made it either, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was cool. So I mean, it did take me a long time, but it made me like appreciate that level. So now when I get down on myself, like I just had like a rough meet. I mean, it was accurate to my year, but I had a rough year. So I had a rough time and I was like really disappointed. And one of my athletes said, like, hey, you can't be upset about this because we are all trying to get to that level and you just did that without thinking and now you're mad about it. And
Mhm.
it reminded me of like how hard I worked to get there the first time and like how hard I work there to get there every time. So I think it was cooler to me, at
Yeah.
least, that it took me longer and it gave me a better appreciation for what the work takes.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's good for people to hear it too, because I think they're, especially now in our Instagram world of, everybody just posts their bests and, maybe they don't post until they're better, type of a thing.
Yeah.
I think it's easy for people to think they can, get into the sport and just do whatever, which like the possibility is there, the opportunity is there, but is
Right.
not an instant gratification sport
Yeah.
for
No.
99.9% of people. And so I think it's good for people to hear that you put in work for 5 years to get to finals, and you're somebody who takes training seriously too. Like imagine someone who
Yeah.
doesn't get in and like immediately is like CrossFit Games, weightlifting,
Right.
nationals. Like if
Right.
that's not your personality, it might take a little longer too.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, and because I started following you maybe like shortly after I started weightlifting. So in my head, which was like, I don't know, 2020, 2021, in my head, I'm like, oh, Stephanie's such a good weightlifter, national level. So it's like so interesting to like hear this perspective too. I'm like, oh, okay, she took a while. There's some potential for me out there still too. So it's
Oh,
like, this just
100%,
looks, yeah,
Wanda.
this is
When
like
I remember
so,
the first time I saw you lift, I was like, "Damn, this girl's gonna go places." And you have the right mindset, and when you watch your growth pattern, like, you're gonna do whatever you wanna do in this
yeah,
sport.
yeah. So, yeah.
It is funny to hear that, though, sometimes, obviously, I don't have a huge following, I have, like, 20,000 followers, which is, like, big in the for me as a person that I'm like, I've never done anything of note. But,
Stop.
it's like it's not huge in the perspective of, like, I don't go to, like, random other places and people know who I am. It's mostly weightlifters, right? But
Hmm.
it is, like, one of the most encouraging things that I hear is when people say that, Wanda, it, like, reminds me that, like, you know, like, there's people looking up to you and, you have, like, a voice to talk to women, basically. Like,
Yeah.
that's my favorite thing to hear because I look up to other people that way, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Wow, people hold me in that esteem? That's kinda crazy." But it is cool because, like, the people that we look up to that way, a lot of the people I've looked up to that way, you know them.
Yeah.
They're not like it's not like Tom Brady to some kid playing football as a 10-year-old. It's like, like I've competed against Olympians, the people that I look up to, and they know my name. And I'm like, that's weird. Like, but that's what's so cool about our sport is that like the people that that we like strive to be like now we're sitting on a podcast. You didn't know me that long ago. And then, we trained together for a year and then now we're on a podcast together, which is really cool.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's such a I think strength sports is such a like a cool niche world to be in, whether it's
Yeah.
weightlifting, powerlifting, whatever it is. Like you said, it's like the people who are at the top of the game most of the time are people that you personally know.
Right.
And it's like people you can have a conversation with and they become a real human to you.
Yeah.
Instead of, again, this like weird parasocial thing that we sometimes develop with people online. Like these
Yeah.
are real people that you can see them in competition, you can see them training, you can have a conversation with them. Like I think that's
Hmm.
um one of the great things about strength sports is it's like a
Yeah,
big
totally.
small world. And yeah, I mean like 20K is amazing like as just like as an individual, like it's great reach. It's one of those things too where it's like we've talked before about being like niche famous, like
Yeah.
outside of weightlifting, it's not like you're going into Whole Foods and somebody is like recognizing you, especially in California. You live in the world of celebrities that there anyways, but um it still feels good to know that it helps to make your journey like mean something even
Yeah.
more, I think, you know? Like
It
it's
does. It
more
like
than just like
reminds
your
you that
personal thing.
exactly. Yeah, it's true. I was thinking something when were just saying that, and I held my thought. Yeah, it is weird. It is weird sometimes, like especially. So when I travel, that's when I notice it. Is like I'll go somewhere and like this happened to me in Australia. This was the weirdest thing. I'm like a 20 something hour flight from home, and I went to this gym and in Brisbane, and the woman I like went to go introduce myself to the woman, and I had signed up in advance for a drop in and blah blah blah, and I'm like explain like we were talking about competition or something, and I'm like explaining to her who I am, and she's like, "Oh no, I know exactly who you are." And I was like, "What?" Like that was so mind-blowing to me. And that happened to me in Germany too, but in Germany I feel like I don't know, that was like a bigger gym and like that made sense to me. For whatever reason, the Australia thing, like, I was like, "Excuse me?" And she's like, "Oh, yeah, I'm like a huge fan." And I still follow that woman to this day. Like, I was like, Let me follow you back." And I was like, "You're a fan? That's so random." Like, I, I was like, "I don't do anything cool." And she's like, "I've been watching you for so long and you've grown so much." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's true."
Yeah.
Like, at that point I had like, it was like around the time that I was like getting close to like reaching nationals. So that was mind blowing to me. I was like, what have I even done? That's cool. Like nothing I've
Yeah.
done is cool. I didn't own a gym yet. You know what I mean? Like I thought that was funny. But I think I think the fact that I have 20,000 followers to me, I'm like, I think I have like the pinnacle of like achievably hot and achievably good at weightlifting. Like I'm not doing anything outrageous and I'm not outrageously hot. So girls are like, hell yeah, that's my girl. Like that's relatable.
Yeah.
Oh
I think that's what
my
it
god.
is.
Yeah, I mean, well, like you want to follow people, which I think this is like trending, right? Like you want to
Yeah.
follow people who are like you, right? Like it's
Yep.
not just this unachieved like Tom Brady, like we're never going to be Tom Brady, right? Like that's not
Mhm.
an achievable thing, but like following other people who are like you, have the same desires, have the same habits, like it makes sense because then things are motivating you in an
Yep.
achievable way versus like watching somebody who has a personal chef. Like that's not my life, you know?
Right. Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally get that. Like watching the training habits of people that are like only a step or two ahead of you so that you can be like, "Oh, that's the edge that I need to like bring into my training or whatever."
Yeah.
So so you're training at this CrossFit gym.
Yep.
I think from following you for a while, you were training outside or in Ryan's gym for a while. So
Yeah.
when was the transition and how like I mean talk about your process of like now opening this like gym with Ryan and like owning
Yeah,
your
of
own
course.
business.
Yeah, so we trained at a couple different CrossFit gyms. It was this one gym that Ryan and I met at, and then some transitions happened and we shifted to training at Code 3 San Diego because there's a couple Code 3s. There were a couple in LA and now there's one there was one in San Diego. They had like they did not even have a weightlifting team. There was like three crappy platforms with like bars that didn't spin and some broken plates in a corner. But that was our option. That was like what we did. So we ended up meeting like a lot of our or just kind of coming together with what ended up being the Rytown USA team like at that gym.
Yeah.
Um and that gym shut down in 2018 and we ended up having no choice. We were like, let's just go in Ryan's garage. We
Yeah.
could have gone to other gyms, but like the way things ended at our last gym, like the gym prior to Code 3 and then even Code 3, it was just kind of like, I don't really want that. I just want to like isolate with you guys a little bit. And then 2020 happened and we had to anyway. So we
Mhm.
were like in transition and we were like, we'll find a gym eventually. And then 2020 happened and we couldn't. So it was like me, I'm sure, I don't know, Kristen Izuka is, or now Zarafili is like a huge name from that era from us. We're still really close friends with her, but she doesn't lift anymore. Like Christian, who was our very first member at the strength tank, like Antoinette is still at the strength tank. Jed was there for a while. So we had like Nina Escobedo. She's a registered dietitian. She's helped me a lot in my weightlifting career, and she's still one of my closest friends. So that was like our little group in that gym. And we had this one coach who we had for a few years, and he like did some shady stuff that just went totally against our like moral ground as a group, and we like realized it all kind of at the same time. Like, this person isn't like a great person and isn't a great representative of what we are. Because we were training in Ryan's garage, we felt like a family because his like wife would come out with their baby, and like we spent a lot of time with their family, and like people would bring their family members over. So it felt very family like. So when someone did something so outside of like our bounds, it was very, very clear. So Ryan and I had a conversation where we were like, hey, why don't we learn how to do this and just lead the team? Let's just like program for the team, coach the team. So we started like putting together our programming and leading the team and coaching the team. And then a local CrossFit gym that Ryan had some connections with had asked us um to coach there for like a weightlifting class, basically. So we started doing that. And then we were like, hey, we should probably get certified in this. So we got our level 1. And, at like after our like long workday at our corporate jobs, we'd like be training till 10 o'clock at night, and we'd be like, dude, I hate my job. I wish we could just weightlift all day. And we kind of like pictured what would you do if we could have a gym? What would that look like if we could have a gym? So we were like picturing all this stuff in our minds, and the opportunity to open the gym kind of just fell in our lap. Like, there was a CrossFit gym that was opening that had too big of a space and wanted someone to take the other part of the lease, and we were like, we could do it. And I was like, I have no tie to anything. Like, I'm not obsessed with my job. If I have to lose a little bit of money for a few years, I can do that. I don't have a family, so I can like be the person on the ground. And Ryan like would just like do a lot of stuff on the back end and then be there at night when he was back from his job. So that's pretty much like what we did, and it kind of fell into our lap after like just continuing to open the door in front of us, I guess. Does that make
Oh,
sense? Is that insane?
Yeah. No,
yeah.
no, it makes sense. It's just like so awesome to hear because it's like I always gonna see it from like the social media side. That's like,
Mhm.
oh, you guys are opening a gym. So it's like, oh, just so nice to like hear like this background story to add to it. And because I know you guys too, it's just like it adds so much more of like to the lore.
Yeah, and it kind of for like a long time felt like it was this concept more than it was like an actual. And it lined up actually perfectly with the timeline of my very first nationals. So it was like a very interesting, like I'm very big, I'm like a little bit witchy, obviously. So I believe in like the transitions of time being like pivotal moments, and like events being like points in times that speak to you that you have to like really sit and recognize. And so with my nationals weightlifting career, I bombed out. I went 0 for 6. I didn't like bomb out and miss all my snatches. I went 0 for 6. I did not have a single lift count in my favor at that meet, which was like obviously super devastating. And when I look back at it, it doesn't feel like a huge deal, but at the time I was like, wow, this sucks. And it was like a month before we opened the gym. So I was like, this is horrible. But then like contextually, I was also like constantly like we were all but sleeping in that gym. So I'd be like working my full-time job, then going to the strength tank, painting, laying floors, building benches, like moving weights constantly. Like every weekend we'd be like going to pick something up and like moving it and bringing it down. So when I got back from nationals, we had like 3 weeks before we were basically opening the doors to the gym. Um, and I think that was like a really important transition point for me to be like, okay, I was thinking I'd like go to nationals, have a killer thing, and then be able to like walk away from my competitive career. And I think I was like, no, I think it's important that I like continue training because I didn't do what I wanted to do. And it made me like train like kind of approach being a gym owner differently. Like I didn't break off from my career right away. So I like am part of my team. Like I train with my team now, which is really cool.
Yeah. That's actually something I was going to ask about that I was really curious about because I think if someone has not owned a gym, a lot of people think like, oh, I love to work out or I love to coach. Let me own a gym. And that is not
Yeah.
how owning a gym works. So I was curious how you handled that transition, how you handled that balance of opening the gym and then continuing to train.
So a lot of coaches and gym owners, and I think this is like the old bitter portion of them that didn't accomplish what they wanted to accomplish and didn't have what it took to, or maybe had what it took and didn't give themselves enough boundaries. Like, it is the same. Like, I have a job. Like, I have a job that I show up at, and the job is just happens to be owning the gym. That like means that I have to prioritize my training specifically. Like, sometimes that means I only have a couple hours at scattered points, and if that's the hours I have to grab my training in, then that's the hours I have to grab my training in. There have been times when owning the gym has like greatly benefited my training because I'm like at a gym all day. So if I need to do 2 a day, like when I was doing training 2 a days, it was awesome because I'm like, I have an hour and a half block here and I have a 3 hour block there. Like, I'm just going to do it like that. And then there's times when my training is sacrificed, but like, it's like anything. And it's exactly what I would tell my athletes if they were like, work is really stressful. I'd be like, get up early and train in the morning. Like, come later, train at night. I don't know. You want this. You want to work out. You want to compete. You want to XYZ. So a lot of gym owners will be like, oh, I never train anymore. And I'm like, I train more now than I ever did because it's all right in front of me. So I don't have the excuse. And quite frankly, I'm like inspired by my athletes. When I go to a big meet with them or when I watch them struggle through like hard training sessions, I'm like, bitch, you have no excuse. Like, finish this job. You know what I mean? So I like, it was definitely like an interesting transition, but I train with the team sometimes. A lot of people think that's weird. I don't. I have a great time. I think it shows them like, if you want to be at this level or at any achievable any level that you like, if you're trying to level up, you have to take training seriously. So then when they watch us train, we're just showing them how we want them to train, and I encourage all of our coaches to train with the team. Um and I never really found it like a huge struggle. It's just like compete. Like, I used to travel for a living and I still found time to compete. That was harder than this is to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I always loved running gyms because like you said, I'm in the gym already. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
like to me that was always helpful. I think
Right.
sometimes it's the when to like turn on your coach brain and when to turn on your athlete brain type of a thing is more of the thing that we hear people struggle with more than anything else. You know what I mean? It's like because if you
Yeah.
are in that mode of trying to train and you have a goal and people are asking you questions or trying to like, switch back and forth between those things, I think that's more what we have heard people have to kind of
Struggle
work
with.
to figure out what that looks like for them.
That definitely was a challenge for a while, and not even just like there's like two layers of it, right? Because I own the gym, I work in the gym. So like anything would happen. My phone would ring, someone would walk through the door, um, like a plate was out of place, and I'd be like distracted by the fact that I was there. So I had to learn how to like kind of get my focus on. And I actually, after nationals, started working with a sports psychologist. Obviously that was like a devastating traumatic experience. So I was like, how do I come back from this? Like, how do I continue to compete? And I talked to him about that, and he helped me like find kind of my flow with training. And that's what training is in any case. Like, in any case, people have their phone pinging them emails from work, or their daughter's calling them about, can I have XYZ instead of this? Or they got into a fight with their significant other, or one of their friends in training is trying to talk to them in between the sets and it's taking too long. Everybody has the same like amount of distractions. Mine are just right in front of me at the gym. So I worked on finding like basically a flow state. Um, and trying to create that for myself. So that focus is something that I've like tried to teach my athletes too, because when I'm training, I don't train actually with the team super often. I do it like maybe once a week. When I'm like training for competition, it's a little bit more because I try to train when the coaches are coaching. And it's like healthy to have a little bit of distraction, but if I can train earlier in the day, it is actually better for me. I'm like, I just get it done and it's out of the way and I'm not stressed about it. But when I'm actually training with the team, they know that when my hands are on the bar, I'm not adjusting your account or answering your questions about your program. There's a block of time that I'm available to do that in, and there are other coaches on the floor right now. I won't be training during my coaching hours, you know. I train during other coaches' coaching hours or outside of coaching hours. So they know that like when I'm gearing up to train, when I'm warming up, when my hands are on the bar, when I'm like in the middle of a set, like I'm not your coach anymore, I'm your teammate. And that was hard because I want to help them if I see them struggling, but I just like have to switch into teammate mode. So if there's someone directly next to me that I'm like, hey, stay over the bar a little longer, I'll give them a quick cue or something, but I'm not going to like go get the PBC and demonstrate and blah, 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 because then I would expect them not to train like that. So they need to see me not train like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that says a lot also just about the culture of the gym that you've created. You know what I mean? I
Uh-huh.
think the fact that, you know, you have other coaches with coaching hours and like the athletes respect that, like that's just says a lot about the business you've created and the culture you've created within that space.
Yeah.
Because that's how those limitations can set. The places where I've been where it's tough is where those limits are not set, or you have, you know, a coach who doesn't answer questions or things like that, so then they're going to like the secondary person. So you just
Yeah.
created a really great culture for that, which is really, really cool.
Yeah. Our community is awesome. Like that's like Wanda can speak to that
This
too.
is literally my favorite gym outside of walking barbell. It's like literally my favorite gym to like
Thank
drop
you
in
so
at.
much. That we've
I
been to a lot, so that
I
means a
love it.
lot.
Yeah. I like every time, so like one of our athletes at Milwaukee Barbell, he has traveled to San Diego. He's like, "Oh, Wanda, like I went to strength training, blah blah blah." I was like, "Oh my God, did you love it?" Blah blah blah. So it's like I just like love like telling everyone about you guys. So, uh,
Oh, I really appreciate that because we worked really hard to build like a welcoming community and like a team environment and stuff like that. And that's like our core values start with community. It's community, integrity, grit. And like our team is so cool that I couldn't create this thing and not want to be a part of it too. Like obviously it's the greatest honor of my life to lead this team. Like I every time I step out onto the platform with them competing, I'm like so grateful that they chose us to do that with them, but, like,
mhm.
I can't watch them and then not throw down with them because 'cause they're so and again, Wanda will say this, Wanda's had some PRs at our gym. That team on, like, a Friday night or a Saturday day when you're going heavy is, like, unmatched hype, like, it's so much fun to, like, hype with that team, so I you know, I wanna be a part of that.
Uh,
Oh, for sure. It sounds super, super fun. I'm
Mhm.
sad that we were not in San Diego at the same time. I feel like
I
that would
know,
just
me
be
too.
such a great place to train. Although I was not weightlifting when I was in San Diego. I was in my bodybuilding phase and like Latin dancing. So
Oh,
we
let's
would not have
go.
been in the same place anyways.
Yes.
But I want to kind of go back. So you've mentioned nationals a few times. Obviously that
Yeah.
was, you know, like the big initial goal you set for yourself.
Yep.
It did not go as planned,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
So, how did you kind of work through that? How did you set, like, the next goal? You said you worked with a sports psych,
Yep.
but what was that like?
I was just like well, to paint the picture, I had already had, like, a super disappointing bomb out, like, the the finals before that. So I walked into that, like, afraid, like, totally not who I am as a competitor, because even now, if I miss a lift, I'm like, I don't get that crazy in my head about it. Like, this finals, I missed the snatch before my opener, and my coach was like, "Do you wanna retake it?" And I was like, "Nah, I just need to psych the fuck up." Like, you know, when I went out and I smoked my opener, and I think, at that time, I went in without that mindset. Like, when I missed that lift before my opener at this finals, I literally turned around, and my training partner was in the back. My boyfriend and my training partner were in the back of me, and she looked at me like, "Are you good?" And I was like, "I know exactly who the fuck I am." That's what I said to her. And then I just walked out there and I smoked my first snatch. So I think, like, maybe it was experience. Like, now I know I can do that, so I like did it, but like maybe it was experience. And like my finals before that, it was my first big A session. I was in a session with Maddie Rogers and Kate Viber, and I was like seeing stars. Like, I was stunned, and I had an okay snatch session, and then I just had a really disappointing clean and jerk session. So I was like coming off that, and then going into nationals, I just lifted with fear instead of with like confidence and intention. And I was like, all the people that don't like me are pointing at me and laughing from the front row. And that's like literally what it felt like. Like my body just froze and didn't lift. So I had to just like remind myself that I'm not that big of a deal in reality. Like that's what I had to do. And I worked with this sports psych to like basically retrain my brain about how you compete and how you think about training. And that's been a really cool experience, just like retraining my brain around like the process of training. It just happened to happen kind of right around the same time as when we were opening the gym, so it was helpful for that fact too. um but he kind of helped me like create thought patterns that like I also have really bad ADD, so this was helpful for that in my life. But basically just create thought patterns that like when you're thinking something negative, you kind of put it in a bank for later, or like put it in a bank because it's not going to help you do the thing right in front of you. Um and I try to teach my athletes that kind of thought pattern as well, both in training and in competition, because you have to train the way that you compete, which is why I try to like train with some semblance of intensity, you know? Does that answer the question? I don't know. I think I rambled a little.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think it does. And I think it's more like I mean, that changing the way that your brain works is so hard, right? That's not
It
like
is.
a one session and you're good to go, but I I don't know. I think that learn people can learn from you and how you have refocused and kind of like reframed things post at nationals and looking forward. Um what is the goal now? So you obviously have kind of made a comeback from that, and you've done
Yeah.
some cool stuff, and that now is like, as you said, like it's not as big of a deal now as obviously in the moment, like
Right.
that nationals was the worst thing ever, like when it was happening. But um now what's the goal, or what's the plan moving forward?
Yeah. So for the past few years since we did open the gym, and since that nationals, I like looked back and I was like, the goal was to make it there. Now the next goal is to just do well at the meets that I'm at, whether it's finals or nationals or any local comp I go to. Um, I've I've had disappointing meets since then, and I bounce back way differently from it. I just kind of shake it off. I've realized in that moment, like, people might know who you are, but like everybody wants to see you win. So this isn't that big of a deal, and it's not that embarrassing. People do stuff like this all the time. Like, and if this is a coachable moment. So if your athletes ever ask you about this, or if they're having a hard session, you can refer back to this time and how this felt, and use those feelings to help them build from it. So I've kind of, you know, been able to work through it that way. Um, I have not since had any meet that I've been like, damn, that was a smoke show. Like I really did the thing there. I have not really made any significant improvement in my weightlifting career, like numerically. I've definitely gotten more technically sound, and I've, enjoyed different facets of training, and I've like had a couple different cool transitions through this, but I've spent the better part of the last few years like injured or recovering from injury and being really frustrated about that. um, I'm actually 34, but I'm turning 35 this year, so I'm officially a master's this year, and I always thought that I would go into my master's career being like excited to compete as a master's, but I can't really do that because our team is huge. Like our master's team is huge. Kudos to our team. We won Masters Nationals in Boise last year, the USA Masters League. And we brought a bunch of people to Worlds. We have a world champ on our team. We have a handful of people that stood on the podium, and that was like it was a really hard competition, I will say. So I'm super proud of the people that did that. It was like really impressive to watch them do that. I was very inspired by that. But there's so many of them, and I can't compete while I'm coaching 10 to 15 athletes. It's just not
Mhm.
feasible. So I try to compete outside of them and around them. And I was just kind of looking at like the competition year this year, and as I was looking at like, when will I compete compared to when they compete, I just like don't see it happening. And I'm not really disappointed in that fact. Um, and I think I realized that I'm kind of hitting a little bit of a transition where I don't really care as much
Mhm.
about my competitive career as I do about standing next to them in their competitive careers. I've obviously thought a ton about like what would happen when I'm done weightlifting and blah 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 blah. And I'm like pursuing some like athletic endeavors and strength endeavors outside of weightlifting. And I'm still training weightlifting full time as if I'm going to work up to a competition, but I really just don't have the desire to keep going anymore.
Mhm.
Like I said at the beginning, I'm not like, I'm retiring. I'm not gonna like leave my shoes on the platform or anything dramatic like that. But like until I either like drastically improve or not drastically, even just like get back to some numbers I actually feel proud of. I guess I'm sick of walking away from competitions and feeling like, really, that's it? Like there's no like purpose for it anymore. I'm not having fun doing it anymore. I'm not having fun pursuing it anymore. And I think it's kind of more useful for me to take the energy I have in that and pour into the people that still have that energy, I think.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, I think that like the joy you got out of competing, like you can get that joy out of coaching too. You know, like our
I
desires
do.
and things change sometimes, you know, and like the fact that you have such an accomplished and big masters team is awesome.
Yeah, I am really proud of them, and I'm really proud of our seniors too. We've had some really awesome moments with our seniors, and there's a few of them like reaching for the same things I was reaching for my entire weightlifting career, and I think some of them have a lot more potential than I ever did. So, being able to like work with them through that is really cool. And I'm not saying it I'm out. I just think and I'll keep training. I really do want to keep training. I love weightlifting, but I'm just really tired. 10 years is a long time to do something and not get what you want from it. And I think like I love this sport and I think like so much of me was tied into like you have to hit this number and you have to keep up with this person or that person or you know, a and now at, like, the later part in my career, I'm like, "You just love this sport, so let it just be that," and I'm trying to just enjoy the process of training and trying to remain uninjured, like, I don't know how much you guys have struggled with injury, but I'm so sick of, like, rolling out of my bed and, like, checking my body as I do so and, like, barely putting my shoes on. It's, like,
Yeah.
exhausting to do that. So I think I'm just tired and I'm starting to see kind of the end of my competitive career and looking forward to the things I'll have, like, outside of that.
Yeah. No, my
Yeah.
back. I'm like moving around in this chair because my back hurts so bad from like a
Yeah.
month ago. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, Wanda had a little back thing. I'm coming back from a super fun quad tear. Not at this finals, but the year before at finals, I tore my quad.
What?
Bad, 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 bad. And honestly, the worst part was not that it happened, was trying to get to the frickin' airport after tearing my quad because I was by myself. So I had to like, it was my right leg, and I had to like drive the rental car to the airport and
No.
get to my flight and everything. And it was like, that was the sucky part.
I would have got one of those
And
people to, like, push me around or drive me around in those big
dude, I
cars.
did. I never would have made it. But I had to like walk up the parking garage to like my rental car and drive back on my right leg. Like, so every time I pressed the gas pedal, it was just like excruciating. So,
That's
and I like
brutal.
retore my quad. I'm like just finally now like lifting actual weights. And I think it can do like different things. Like, I think it also depends on like where you are at with goals, where you are with career, where you are with coaching. Like there's so many influences that can kind of help determine like, you know, what we want to do post injury, if it's like we're
Yeah.
on a comeback tour, or if it's a transition or like anything like that. But um yeah, I love that you are, where you want to focus your energy. I think it's sometimes very hard to make that decision. um did you feel any, I I don't wanna say, like, mourning. Did you feel any sadness in making that decision, or were you more just, like, excited to be like, "Hey, I think now is a time for me to, like, I'll keep training, I'll see what happens, but, like, I think I'm gonna put my energy into coaching in the gym right now." Was that easy for you to say? Was it, like, a process for you to kinda make that decision?
I'm, like, tearing up as we're talking about it. Sorry.
It's okay. You
No.
know.
It's understandable.
It's like, I feel like I'm being torn in half a little bit. Um, so that just answered your question, I guess.
Yeah.
This
No,
has
it
been
makes
really
sense,
hard.
though.
This has been really hard, but I think, like, when I look at the things that I've done and, like,
Oh my God, I'm crying.
the way that I've approached things I'm so sorry. This is
It's
so
okay.
embarrassing.
No,
And
it's
it's
not. It
real, and
means we
it's
love
how
this
people
sport. It
feel
means
about walking
something.
away, yeah.
I've
Yeah.
just given this sport like every piece of me, and it takes so much. It takes so much from me, but it also gives you so much too. Like it gave me my best friend, like my all of my best friends. Like I would never have known Ryan without this, and I would never have known any of the people that are close to me. I would have never known my boyfriend, who's like the best person in the world and the love of my life. I would have never met Chris Amento, which has been like one of the greatest mentors I've ever had, or my coach now, Dan Marone from the dojo. I would have never met you guys, you know? So to think about like stepping away, it's like, it's not just stepping away from like your ego on the platform. It's like who you were when you met all of those people. And I
Yeah.
think that's like the thing that makes it hard, and like the vision you have of yourself as somebody who is like capable of accomplishing certain things, and knowing that I didn't accomplish those things is hard, because it's like I kind of thought of it for a while as like a failure, but the last like year is what kind of brought me to this point, because I trained with SoCal weightlifting for a while, and at the end of last year, not at the end of 2024, I was like, "Hey, I think it's time for me to step away. I'm really not, progressing anymore, and I don't want to train with this system anymore." It just became like a lot. The way that the system was just not working for the fact that I had a gym and stuff like that. And I also wanted to start taking Chris's coaching courses and stuff like that. And I was like, I want to like that's an expensive gym. It's worth every penny because he's an incredible coach and knows what he's talking about, but it's expensive. And I was like, I own a gym. I can't pay you for this thing to be my coach and also pay you to coach me on how to coach. I can't take your classes, and I want to put my money into learning how to coach now, and I want to see if I can train in a different direction. And I think like choosing that moment of like choosing my coaching career over
Mhm.
my weightlifting career should have said enough to me. Um, but I like was like, no, I want to, maybe go at it one more time. I came out of finals in 2024 injured, which was like the tale as old as time. That's how I do it every year. I'm always like limping off the platform basically, or whatever. My arm was like hanging out of the socket. I'm like, dude, I can't keep doing this with you. So I took a few months off, and then through 2025, I like started rehabbing and making this, comeback, which is what I always do. And I started working with my now coach, Dan Marone, and he's incredible. And he's like kept me super healthy this year. Like he's working with my PT, Christine Na, to really like get me back to a place where now I just got off of finals and I was like squatting the next day, no problem, which is the craziest thing I've ever heard. Um, but over the last year, while I've made this comeback, I've had a lot of moments where like, is this worth it? Is it worth it to come back? And I've never felt like that coming back. I've always been like super like, let's do this, blah, blah, blah. And like leading up to finals, which was basically my first competition in a year, I was like not really excited. I was like disappointed in my progress and things like that. And I was like, I am sick of feeling like this. And I don't know. It was really hard to make that choice. Over the last year, I've sat with it a lot, and I find myself either subconsciously or like overtly in conversation talking a lot and thinking a lot about the end of my weightlifting career. And I keep trying to like suppress that feeling. But then I started just kind of leaning into it and like thinking about like, what does that look like? Like, what does stopping competition really look like for you? And I was like, why don't I just kind of loft into it? So I'm still like kind of in that feeling and in that transition, because I'm not like, this is the first time I'm like publicly acknowledging that that's where I'm at. To be honest,
Mhm.
I haven't really talked a lot about that to like my team. People will ask, and I'm just kind of like, I don't know, like, when's your next comp? I'm like, I don't know, we'll see. But in reality, like, even like my coach, he was like, when, let's start planning your year. And I'm like, maybe. And for me,
Yeah.
I think for me, I'm like kind of letting myself like slowly transition into that, because
Mhm.
thinking about like really never doing it like guts me a little bit. So to answer your question, it's been like a really challenging time to think about, but I think it's important because we go through this and we tie our identities to being athletes, but like when I really think about my weightlifting career, it's not just about being an athlete, it's about being a teammate, being a friend, being
Hmm.
a leader and a coach. And now I have this great opportunity to like give people all those things and help people achieve all of the things they want to achieve. And like it's so much bigger than numbers and and PRs, you know?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
so I'm trying to get myself to that point, and I'm much more there now than I ever have been. Um, but it is hard. It's really hard to acknowledge that I'm like
Yeah.
stepping down a little bit.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thanks
Yeah.
for
I
sharing,
mean,
though. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
sorry, I
Thank you
just
so much for
lost
sharing.
it.
No, no,
No, don't
no, no. Don't
apologize.
apologize at
Therapy.
all. No, I mean it's real, and like I think it's important. There's so many ways for us to be involved in a sport that we love. So it is like you said, it's not like there's not like this moment of you putting your shoes on, like you're not Ilya Alien, right? It's not like a shoe down, like walk, like there's not that type of a thing, but that's almost harder, right? Because it's like this strange, nebulous transition that
Yeah,
you're not quite sure of. And like I appreciate you sharing that it has been hard because it is super hard.
yeah,
And it makes me think of what you said kind of in the beginning. Like, you said you really recognize like different times and circumstances and changes, like and the meaning that they have and the way that you can transition in life. And I feel like this is just another,
point.
one of those for you. Like it's another point of transition. And, like the transition also doesn't have to be like you give up competing forever so you can focus on coaching. Like who knows what will happen in the future. But I appreciate you sharing that and appreciate that you're making a decision to like be happier in a sport that you love, in a sport that you've given so much to and has given so much to you. Like I mean that's just such a huge thing to be able to acknowledge and then make that
Mhm.
decision of like this is what I need to do even though it's tough, like to be in this sport the way that I need to be now.
Mhm. Yeah, and I feel like we see so many like as women, we're like super hard on ourselves about everything, like perfectionists and
Yeah.
stuff, and we see so many people walk away and like I feel like there's this like grudge against it almost. And I always was like, I never, and I feel that way about soccer. To be honest, when I walked away from soccer, like never put a soccer ball in front of me again, which is crazy because I played for like 20 years. So I like never wanted to feel that way about this. I always was like, I hope that when the end comes, I can like go into it gracefully. And then I see like my athletes like Nick Deshane is literally will compete till the day he dies. I cannot explain that further. Like he's 40, I don't know, I think he's 42 or 44. He's in the sub 45 category, but he's like a beast. He's competitive with even senior level guys. Like he competed in the A session at AO finals. He competed at senior nationals, like was competitive at senior nationals. He's a 110. I think the weight category is now. He's competed at different, weight classes and stuff. Like he cut down from a super to be a 110 so he could be more competitive. And when I say these things to him, he's like, nah, you'll never be done. And I'm like, will I get to that point? Will I like continue? And he's like still getting better. So he like inspires me a little bit, but then I'm also like, we have different journeys. Then I see like, Cornell George is another one of my masters he's starting to be, talk like I'm talking. And he's starting to be like, I'm sick of being hurt. He's had this incredible career. He's an American record holder. He's like in his 40s and can snatch like 150 something. It's crazy. Like that's insane. But I think like I relate more to him and him and I have been doing it around the same amount of time. So even though he's a lot older, I'm like, yeah, I'm just at that point now because like age wise in the sport, like years in the sport, we're like reaching that same point.
Mhm.
Um, but I am still like in the nebulous, as you said with it. I'm still like, okay, it could happen again. I could decide to go again. I don't think it would take a miracle. I think it would just take me feeling really strong and much more confident than I felt in the last couple of years because I would rather take the energy it takes to compete to coach at a competition. Um, and I do want to reference you guys know Sarah Tyler on Instagram. It's Lady Sarah Tyler. She's incredible. She's one of my best friends, one of my dearest people in my life, and she like I saw like I watched her like reach super hard for her American records and to make it to senior nationals as a masters athlete, and she did that and then she decided to retire, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool. Like you accomplished everything you want to accomplish and then you retire." And I think that's what everybody like wants to do essentially. Like they want to be able to hang their hat on the thing that they like reached for, and she did that. And she stepped away and then like not even a year later she was like, "JK." And she's, like, back
Yeah.
to competing. But I think her, like, mindset about competing has shifted slightly. Like, she's trying to be the best she can be in that moment on the day. She's not, like, comparing herself to her old self all the time. And I
Mhm.
watch her struggle with that. We do talk a lot about that. She texted me over the weekend, like, crashing out about a training session that didn't even seem that bad, if I'm being honest. She's, like she's way too hard on herself. She's, like, incredible and has a lot on her plate, and she, you know, still finds the energy and time to train, but I'm, like, wondering how that will go for me. Am I gonna pull a Nick and just
Yeah.
be like, "Just kidding," and just keep going, or am I gonna be more like Sarah and, like, just kinda shift how I think about it, or am I just stepping away? I don't know yet, but it's definitely been a challenge to think about.
Mhm. Yeah. I think that's the kind of the great part about it though is like it could look like any of that, you know? Like it could
Yeah,
be anything and I think if there's anything in common with, I guess probably athletes across the board, but obviously we talk to strength sport athletes and women in strength
yeah,
sports, but
yeah,
is I think like we all kind of figure out how to just like see what that edge is, like what the limit is of what we're capable of, and whether that's through a competitive career, through a coaching career, through running a gym. Like I think everything that you're doing, that all of us are doing, is trying to figure out like where those boundaries are and push beyond them.
yep,
And no matter the aspect, like, that's fucking hard. Like, it just is. It's really hard physically, emotionally, mentally. Like, all of those things are really hard. So it would make sense that any of the transitions between them are also hard, you
hard,
know?
Yeah.
yeah. I've just recently also just, like, found myself craving other ways of movement. Like, I work part-time at this gym called Locomotion Athletics, and it's like a strength and conditioning class gym. It's actually a really cool concept. The owner's awesome. Um, it's like class-based strength and conditioning, and then they do like a hybrid model so you can do personal training within that too. So there's people that will come in like once a week for personal training and then also take the classes. And the people at this gym are wicked strong and like very athletic. Like I'm super impressed by the people at this gym. For people that don't consider themselves athletes, in my head they're all athletes. The way they train is like they train like athletes. And they
Mhm.
like shoot for PRs and stuff like that. Like the classes look like what you would structure a weightlifting workout to look like just without the
Mhm.
weightlifting. It's like squats and deadlifts and presses and things like that, and then a bunch of accessories, and then they do a lot of plyometrics and different things of that nature. Um they do a lot of kettlebells. That's something I've had to get into recently. Like I this weekend I got my Strong First kettlebell certification, which I was like, this is like the nerdiest cult I've ever experienced in my life. But then I'm like, this is probably what people think about weightlifting.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
It's crazy. So yeah, so I watch how they train and I'll like take the classes sometimes and I'm like, I kind of crave just like general strength work more now, which is like really interesting how like your body is just like tells you when it's time, you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm.
And I'm just
Yeah.
trying to
I
like
love that.
be a woman and like lean into my intuition a little bit. So honestly, I'm just letting my intuition guide me with what's next. Like my body is telling me this, so I'm going to lean into that. And even when I'm talking to my coach, I'm like, I just want more bodybuilding and less weightlifting and more strength stuff. And like, I want to do more cardio weirdly. Like I've been like craving cardio and just like feeling in shape and feeling like
Yeah.
Yeah.
capable more than I am
Yeah.
like trying to snatch 95 again. You know, it's like,
Yeah. Yeah. We're if there's anybody that's a fan of being guided by vibes, like we're in it with you.
guided by vibes is such the choice word for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it totally is. Dude, thank you so much for sharing with us and sharing your
Yeah,
story with us, and
of
especially
course.
about the transition and everything. Before we finish up, Wanda has
Yeah,
some rapid fire questions for you.
cool. Yeah, we love it.
Okay. All right. What's your favorite lift?
Snatch.
Um, do you have a pre-competition ritual?
I have a post-competition ritual.
Okay, what is it?
Me and Ryan get McDonald's.
I love that. Okay, would you rather have a pet dinosaur or a dragon?
A dragon.
Okay, and then lastly, what's the last thing you screenshot?
Ooh.
Do you have your phone with you? I can pick a
I
different question.
Yeah, pick a different one.
Okay.
I was
Pineapple
probably
on
talking
pizza,
shit
yes
and
or
we didn't
no?
Sorry?
Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Yeah, why not?
Why not? Okay, fine. One more. Do you have any hidden talents?
No, weirdly not really. I mean, I played violin for a long part of my life, and every once in a while I'll pick it up and I can still jig a little. I think people think when I tell people that they're kind of thrown off, which I think is
Yeah.
funny. Yeah.
Okay. No,
Yeah.
that's all I got.
Awesome.
I love that. I feel like violin is not like a SoCal habit, maybe. Like it's
Yeah,
not
I
like a
mean,
SoCal hobby, so maybe that's why also.
yeah. Well, because you're like I live in a condo. Like my neighbors could hear me if I like suck. I don't, when I was growing up as a kid, I had like an acre of land. I'd be like playing and like no one else can hear me besides my parents, I
That's
think we got
awesome. I
disconnected a
love it.
little for a second.
All good.
Yeah.
We're golden. We're back now. Thank you again for joining us.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell people where to follow us, how to follow the gym, so that when they're in San Diego they can come drop in and hang out with you guys?
Yeah, of course. I am on Instagram and TikTok as at Barbie_lifter. My gym is just at the Strength Tank. The gym is in San Diego, California. So if you ever want to come to sunny San Diego, please, please, please drop in. We would love to have you there. And was there one more? Is there anything else?
No,
Oh,
that's
no,
all.
perfect.
So
Awesome.
go follow Steph, follow the gym, and we will see you guys next time.
Yeah, thank you so much, ladies. This was so much fun.